My name is Faith Shearer. I'm Associate Athletic Director here on campus. And I'll just be honest with you, I've been fussing over this talk for about a month. And finally this morning, my goal, sort of my purpose came to me. My goal for this talk is to leave you as confused as I am. And I believe that I am uniquely equipped to do just that. So, authentic, not false or imitation, real, actual. As I was thinking about the topic, I came across an article in Psychology Today. The author, Bob Adelstein, said, "We have all identified who we are and what our world is, whether we are aware of it or not. While our identity may seem static, objective, and given, in truth it is fluid, subjective, and chosen. Thus, the dance for us all is our engagement with who we thought we were and the discovery of who we are now in the moment. This will allow us to modify our old identity to a more authentic identity. This wonderful and courageous process will hopefully continue through our lives." So who am I? I was born a Midwesterner in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm the daughter of a Black father raised in Morgan Park, a predominantly Black neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. I'm also the daughter of a white mother raised on a farm outside of Beersford, South Dakota, population 2,000, in the southeastern corner of the state. My childhood was spent in two central Indiana cities. My earliest years were in Marion, Indiana, a small town best known for being the birthplace of James Dean. My teenage years were spent in Indianapolis, best known for the Indy 500. My upbringing was unmistakably suburban. But in the summers, I usually spent a few weeks on the farm in South Dakota and a few weeks in Chicago. In South Dakota, I learned not to name the cattle because they always disappear at some point. A while later, beef wrapped in white paper with my grandpa's name stamped on it would show up. I also learned that cow tipping is not even a little bit funny, and that rain is like Xanax to farmers. In South Dakota, some of the best conversations were had with strangers that were just passing through, and when people came to your house, even if it was unexpected, you invited them in for coffee. In Chicago, I learned to keep my valuables out of sight. I learned to never leave the door unlocked, even if you're just outside doing yard work. Always leave a light on if you're coming home after dark, because it looks like someone might be home. And if by chance a burglar is in the house, you'll see them before they attack you. In Chicago, I learned to never speak to strangers and to never open the door for someone you're not expecting. I remember very clearly the day that I realized that my grandparents on the farm did not lock their doors ever. I didn't sleep at all that night because I knew that robbers came for people who didn't lock their doors. That's why my dad checked them every night before we went to bed. Once in South Dakota, my brother locked his keys in our car. He and some of our cousins had been playing in the car, and he was only about 6 or 7, but dutifully, as any suburban kid would, he locked the doors when they got out. He didn't know that our grandpa had driven the car earlier and had left the keys in the ignition. On the farm, if you leave your keys in the ignition, you will always know where they are and you will never lose them. And as we've established, house keys are completely irrelevant. They're probably in the bottom of the kitchen junk drawer. Moving back and forth between these worlds was fun for me as a child, and it seemed perfectly normal. I didn't assume that everyone did the same thing, but I never thought it was strange. As I got older, I became more aware that my family was different. In the 70s, biracial children and interracial marriages were less common than they are today. I began noticing odd stares when we went out. I began hearing things like, "You talk white." Occasionally, people asked to touch my hair as though they couldn't possibly imagine what this foreign mass on my head might feel like. When people found out my parents were of different races, I was often asked which one of them I lived with. My parents have been married for over 45 years now. As I received honors or gained opportunities, I began to hear insinuations about the color of my skin playing a role. As a child, I used my experiences at home in Indiana, as well as my experiences in Chicago and on the farm, to become very adept at fitting in. And I became very good at it. In middle school and high school, kids want to fit in, and I was no different. In college, though, that started to change. I didn't intend to go to a women's college, but I'm grateful that I found my way to Smith. At Smith, I began to learn who I was outside of my family background. Beliefs that had always been below the surface emerged. Diversity and equality mattered to me because all people deserve respect. Women are not for decoration. They are capable of anything. Kindness is not weakness, nor is admitting when you're wrong. Many other things that I had already known, always known in my heart to be true, were taking shape as core values. As life moved on, living my authentic identity has become more challenging. When a family member posts a Ted Nugent quote that demeans Muslims on their Facebook page, how do I be my authentic self without risking our relationship? Is saying nothing to keep the peace authentic? Does middle ground exist? How do I reconcile the family who loves me dearly, and I don't doubt that for a moment, denies that police brutality against African Americans exists? When an off-color joke is told or an inappropriate comment is made by someone in power, do I risk becoming the outcast by saying something? Do I risk the ability to pay my mortgage by challenging comments or practices in the workplace? Do I fight every battle, or do I choose? If I don't stand up every time I feel women are being treated unfairly, do I betray them? If I do stand up, do my words become background noise? Do I choose my identity, my family, or my mortgage? Is the line that clear? The truth is that I don't know. What I do know is that keeping my soul intact is my responsibility. I know that my spirit is the most precious thing I have. I know that it's mine and it cannot be taken, not by anyone, not even by myself. I'd like to close by sharing, well, I was gonna share a poem, but now I've changed my mind. I'm gonna share a quote from Maya Angelou. Actually, two of them. The first one I thought was apropos. Let's see, I don't know where it went. Well, okay, I'll share the one that I can find. A woman in harmony with her spirit is like a river flowing. She goes where she will without pretense and arrives at her destination, prepared to be herself and only herself. Thank you.